The old Xbox or Microsoft buying ZeniMax Media has...
Yep.
It's now all going through. So it needed to go. They announced it way back when. I can't even remember how far ago it was. But it had to go through all the proper channels and regulatory approvals, both for the United States and the EU. And they kind of went like wham, bam. It came through on the US, came through on the EU, and now it's basically a done deal. And so
nice.
Microsoft's put out this kind of press release. I'm going to read a chunk of it, just kind of a bit verbatim, just so that you kind of know where they're coming from. They did talk about today we completed the acquisition of ZeniMax Media, parent company of Bethesda Softworks. It's an honor to welcome these 8 incredibly talented development studios: Bethesda Game Studios, id Software, ZeniMax Online Studios, Arcane, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog, and Roundhouse Studios. That's a lot of studios. And a lot of
down at the Roundhouse.
Exactly. And a lot of heavy hitter studios. So later on down in this article, and this is off of the Xbox Wire, so you can go and read this if you want to catch up on any of that stuff. They had this part that I think is something that they kind of needed to come out and say because there was a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts like, how's this thing going to go? It said, so this next step in building an industry-leading first-party studios team, a commitment that we have at our Xbox community. With the addition of Bethesda creative teams, gamers should know that Xbox consoles, PCs, and Game Pass will be the best place to experience new Bethesda games. I feel like we all probably knew that was the line that they would tell. But then this next part says, including some titles in the future that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC players. So now it's still ambiguous because it just says some. Right. And I think when all the debate was happening, when this whole deal got announced, because for the longest time, games from most of these studios have been multi-platform. And so the thought was like, okay, so if Fallout 5 or Fallout 6 and whatever the next versions of that game come out, are those going to be multi-platform? And the thought was that, well, any game that's already existed and has been multi-platform will probably continue to be. It may be things like Starfield, which we know is a game that is never released on anything. It's still just out being developed. Maybe something like that is going to be exclusive. It seems like this language kind of points in that direction. But all we really know is this is really the first time that they've used that term that I can recall tied to this purchase, that exclusivity will be a thing. If I were a betting man, I don't think Fallout's going to be exclusive. I don't think the next Doom game is going to be exclusive. I don't think any of those things. Right. Now, in a way, that still doesn't. That's not even really a negative. One, because it's not a negative for them because there's bigger player base and more money they can make. Two, it's whether it comes to everything or not, you're still going to be, in theory, getting it free on Game Pass. So there's still an incentive to want to get it there if you're a multi-platform holding person. So I feel like it only makes sense for them to continue to release things multi-platform, but I also understand if a person really loves platform X and that's where they love to be and the game's going to be there, there's no incentive for them to go buy it elsewhere, and maybe that's what they want. At the end of the day, all of Microsoft's push in the last so many years has been to get as many subscribers to Game Pass as possible. And if you're a PlayStation person, you're not going to buy Game Pass unless somewhere down the road Game Pass comes to PlayStation. So I feel like the big heavy hitters like those games are probably going to stay that way. I think it's your Starfields and your other unannounced games that we don't know anything about. I think the Elder Scrolls is probably going to continue to be multi-platform. I don't know. What do you guys think?
You know, it's crazy. All I hear through all this is like, what a time to be a PC gamer. You know what I'm saying? Because like we're about to have first-party Xbox and first-party PlayStation games both going to PC. It seems like. And that's like kind of never been, you know, the thing with PC gaming was, yes, you had the most powerful thing, but you never really got to play The Last of Us, you know, and things like this. And so what I keep hearing over and over again, even though I think that, you know, obviously we talked about this when we talked about them buying it, was like, oh, okay, well, we'll have to see what ends up being, you know, just on Microsoft, just on Xbox and what won't, which, you know, we still have to wait and see. Yeah. But man, what I keep hearing is, with Days Gone, I think about to release on PC, and them saying like Horizon and things like this are going to PC, and now these games are going to be obviously going to PC because of Microsoft. You're like, shoot, what a time to be a PC gamer is really all I'm taking away from some of this stuff.
Do you think one of the consoles has an advantage for PC gamers over the other? I feel like
Well, yeah.
PlayStation might have initially, but with what's happening now, I think Microsoft's just like, all right, we're shooting our shot. Let's go. Here we go.
With Game Pass Ultimate, with them crossing, as we talked about before, Ultimate wraps in the Xbox and PC, and you get all those games.
Yeah.
I think Microsoft's got the better pipeline, but I think in a mass amount of games. But I think, man, if you're looking over at Sony and Sony's like, hey, we're bringing ours too, you're like, ooh. Yeah, I'll take that too.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely.
I think it's a win-win for everybody. But I feel like when Microsoft announced their Ultimate, I felt like they got the jump start on the whole PC part of it, or versus PlayStation, and maybe it's just PlayStation just being settled. Like, we're just going to go ahead and release these right here on PC. Here you go.
The big difference between the two, I mean, clearly, like Microsoft makes Windows, and so there's all kinds of other incentives for them to want to go down this road. But you're still between the two, you're still better off. Even if Game Pass wasn't a thing, well, I guess it would still need to be a thing because all of them are going to come. If it's a Microsoft-owned Microsoft Game Studios product, which these studios are.
Right.
It's going to be a day and date on PC and console. Whereas on PlayStation, they are starting to dip their toe in the release things on PC. But I think up until now, they've mentioned that it's not going to be a day and date thing. And you don't really know when it's going to happen. Like Horizon came out of the blue, kind of. Death Stranding was a little bit different because they don't own that IP, and they just had like an exclusivity deal for console for that. But he's an independent studio, so once that deal's gone, he can come to PC. And Days Gone just kind of got announced, but it was pretty well past when it had released. I don't think that any Sony game is ever going to come to PC without at least a year of being on PlayStation first. So you're still going to be in that boat of like, man, if you really want to play game X. And you don't want it to be spoiled or whatever, like that kind of thing, you're still going to need to play it on a PlayStation and then later on just have like the definitive experience on PC.
Right.
Unless it's like a game as a service type thing, then you can obviously wait because spoilers don't make as much sense. So in that respect, Microsoft has still got the better deal for the PC player because it should be the same date across the platforms.
Yeah, we're looking forward to Horizon 2, and they still haven't been able to play the first one yet.
That's right.
And so it's, like Chris was saying, it's, there's a lot of, it's like waiting for a game to go to the Switch. It's like, you're just now getting this one. It's kind of, the same thing.
You're just now getting Overwatch.
Yeah.
Chris, how does this work for Mac? I've always been a Windows PC guy. Is Mac getting these games as well, or is it not popping off like that?
There are some games that work over there. The architectures are it's so different in the sense that a big boon for the Microsoft side is DirectX, which works really well for various things, and then obviously NVIDIA, which NVIDIA is not even a thing on Apple products anymore and hasn't been for a number of years now. And now with the thing that it has worked really well is stuff that's being ported to iOS and tvOS and different things like that. I think that as they start to move more and more into their Apple Silicon, where they're making their own processors and whatnot, I do think you may tend to see more games start coming over. There are games like there's not Shadow of the Tomb Raider. What was the very first one? Or maybe it was Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Not the third one that Router didn't like, but the first and second one, I believe those are on. Yeah, I think those two are on Mac. Yeah. And there's various games that are like Hearthstone's on Mac, but Overwatch isn't. And World of Warcraft is on Mac. And Minecraft is on Mac, but Overwatch isn't. And then Apex isn't. And most games are not. The biggest, at the way that it stands now on the Mac side, if you're wanting to do any type of gaming that's not simpler games or games that are originally intended for mobile that you're now playing through there, it's your best bet is to use some kind of streaming service. Quite frankly, they're just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think as long as the the rivers keep making their ways out, I think it's good, and I think it's awesome that I think it's awesome for the PC guys, honestly. You know what I'm saying? That they're going to be able to play some of these things. And they have a bunch of stuff that we don't ever get to play.
Right.
But I do love that they're getting some of these experiences that we've fallen in love with from the console side.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.